Hi, I'm Victoria, a licensed esthetician and your host of your Best Esthetician podcast. This is Chris, my business partner and husband. Today's topic, we are going to go over the importance of consistency and being intentional with your Instagram posts. There's a lot of things that we want to touch on because it seems so basic, but there's so much more to it and what that actually means.
Yeah, I think also not just with Instagram posts, but just Instagram in general, like the way you treat social media with your business as a whole.
Yeah.
Why consistency matters, why intentionality matters, and then what exactly those things really mean. Like what actionable items can you do with those two words that we throw around a lot?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think consistency means posting every single day, and there's so much more to it. And what I mean by that is when you're being consistent, that's great. Give yourself praise for that. But for instance, something that we do, every post really, but for the average person, you should be looking at your analytics and what does best on your page about every 30 days, I would say.
Yeah.
So be consistent for 30 days, but look at your content and see what does good.
Yeah. And I also think consistency doesn't always mean that you have to post 7 days a week. It's really just more about like setting a healthy routine in what works for you and your business and your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So when we first started, we had a lot of time because it was both of us. We both were posting. So we had a tag team situation. We had no clients. So it's like, what else are we going to do? Let's post. And then as the clients picked up and life got crazy, and especially in this last season, having a baby at home, we weren't posting twice a day. We were barely even posting once. It turned from 7 days a week to 3 days a week, but we were still consistently making sure we were posting content that we thought was good a few times a week and checking the analytics and everything on the back end as well. Right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Consistency looks different for everyone. And I think that's really important to not beat yourself up if you are not posting 7 days a week, because you can still grow if you are being consistent. I think it's just the quality of your content is really what matters.
And
we always joke around I just have to say this.
Oh, yeah.
We always joke around whenever we post. We're like, is this going to be a banger?
Yeah.
If it's a banger, it's a banger.
Yeah. If it's a banger, it's a banger.
If it's a flop, it's a flop. Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that's where the intentionality comes in, is that your consistency can be, 2-3 times a week. But if you're very intentional, so one person, I guess we'll just give her a shout out, but Mariah, who's out here, she's actually opening up a school out here. But I remember you went to coffee with her when we first were getting our business going, and she had her account was, probably 50,000 or more followers at the time, 60, something like that. And she was telling you, oh, I only post like twice a week.
Yeah.
But then her post every time, they were bangers.
Yes.
Right. And she knew her niche, and
this is Mariah Esty.
Yeah.
By
Mariah
the way.
Esty,
Yeah.
Mariah _Esty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just said Mariah. That's why.
No, that's fine. But yeah, so what she was doing is that she knew her niche and she knew the type of quality of content that was going to come out. So, and it really made me angry because I'm always been like, you got to post more.
Yeah.
If you want engagement, if you want stuff to work, you got to post 5 times a week.
It just shows if the audience is there, it works,
and
it works every single time.
Yeah. If the content
and Instagram knows who to push your content out to.
Yep. And they knew every time she posted, if it was that niche and that style of content, it was going to work. So I don't think she stressed so much of like, where for us, we were trying so many different things. We were throwing a lot of stuff at the wall, which is also good. And I know she had a bigger account, so she had the opportunity to do that. But I think even smaller accounts, I think if you're hitting the nail on the head and your audience is engaged and they're loving those pieces of content, you don't need to do that 7 days a week if you can't. If you can, you should, because you're going to reach new audience. But if you can't, then do that as much as you can do. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that a lot of people just think that it's a one size fits all when it comes to posting every day. And I have people all the time ask me like, what, of course you can give tips, but if you are just trying to be a copy and paste of everybody else and you're doing what everybody else is doing, it just, in my opinion, isn't going to work. So you have to figure out what works best for you, because I remembered you just bringing that up is I came to Chris after I, met with her, and I said, oh my gosh, we do not need to post every single day. This is so frustrating. And not that it was a bad thing, but I just felt so overwhelmed. And so I was like, it works for her. Why isn't it working for me? And so that's just a prime example of what works for somebody else may not work for you. And at that point, she had a lot of followers. Yep. So, I mean, at that point, she most likely worked really hard to get to where, I mean, obviously she did not, maybe, but she worked so hard to get to where she is today, So I think it's really cool. Like I said, consistency looks different for everybody. And then intentionality means you are being intentional with your posts. So what I mean by that is you studying your analytics. So if you are, I think it's really important to constantly tweak things. So one thing that we do is look at a really well performing reel and see how we can remake that reel so that it can reach new audiences. So,
I think with that also, not even just looking at, we do repurpose reels that do really well, but sometimes we also look at reels that we thought were going to do well.
Yeah.
Or not just reels, it could be graphics as well. Before and afters are kind of just, they are what they are. But all of our posts, we look at them and go, I really thought this one was going to do well.
Yeah.
And we look at it and then we start dissecting it and going, what did we do wrong here?
Yeah.
And I think that's hard to do. It's hard to do when you craft a video, you craft something that you go, this is perfect.
It's going to do so well.
Yeah. And you think it's going to.
Yeah.
And when you re-look at it, you have to kind of pull yourself out and not be prideful and go, let me consume this as everybody else and go, is it boring in the first few seconds? Is it boring in the last few seconds? Do clips drag on too long? Or looking at a graphic and actually going, is this easy to consume?
Yeah.
Is this shareable? Does this even make sense to other people?
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult because we get, there's been so many videos where I'm like, Victoria, this is the one. And then it just doesn't do well. And I'm like,
I think it's really fun though to look back at your content because I remember specifically thinking that this is going to be it. This is going to be it. And this is what's going to take our page to the next level. And now I look at the videos and I think, oh my gosh, there's so much tweaking to this video that could have been better. So it's social media is something that you just can't give up on even after 30 days. You have to, if you want it, go get it. And don't put pressure on yourself if social media isn't for you. But if you want to be great at social media, make sure you're constantly growing and adapting to new, not necessarily trends, but audios, making sure that you're just, the style of content that works best for you. So whatever style of content resonates with you, try to make it your own. And obviously you can tweak things. Don't be a copy and paste of another person. But I think it's really important to just showcase your niche and what you really want to.
We've also we've changed a lot. Like we should eventually maybe even do this in a video, is go back to our first post and look at what we thought was going to be it and what we thought worked. And we've changed a lot. We've changed the way things have looked. We've changed the style of audios. We've changed the way we filmed. And it's not just us trying to chase a trend or it's us kind of growing into like what's us and doing that the best way possible. So for us specifically, we tried a lot of like iPhone stuff in the beginning. We were trying a lot of graphics in the beginning. We were trying before and afters in the beginning, and we still mix around with those things as well. But what in the past, I'd say 6-8 months, what we found is these high quality kind of cinematic feeling videos. It's really easy for us to create them and our audience loves them. So when we found those two things matched together, we dove into that. We
hit the golden ticket.
And then we just hit that hard. But then even in the beginning, our cinematic videos that we thought were going to be bangers, they flopped. And so we had to grow and make them better. We had to learn how to cut them up differently. I had to learn how to shoot them differently. So nothing was ever like we just did it and it worked. And that's where I think consistency comes in. If like, you don't know if it works or doesn't work until you do it 100 times. And I mean, I don't know how many posts that we're at on Instagram now. I haven't looked in a little while, but like we've been posting every day almost every day straight since we started the account.
Yeah.
So with that consistency, we've learned all the stuff that sucks.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what with anything. I think doing facials is the same thing.
Yeah.
When you start doing facials and you feel awkward and you don't have a rhythm.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just see professional video and they think I have to go hire somebody. I have to get professional content because that's what everybody else is doing. And it's not that simple. So just if you are watching this and you think that you need professional content, that's not always it, because some of my best performing reels were with my iPhone, and people always ask, what do you shoot with? I said my iPhone. So my point is just that when you are, you don't just need professional photo and video. That's not how it's going to work. You have to know how to use social media. You have to know how to trim things up. You have to know how to add text to videos. So it's not just hire somebody out and, of course, please hire somebody out and get good clips, but knowing how to put everything together, because it's all a puzzle piece.
And I think that's what goes along with your brand. And we haven't spoke. We had an old podcast on branding, and we can always do another one. But yeah, those things go into your brand, which I think high quality is great. I'm a huge fan. I shoot photo and video, so I'm always like, do everything high quality.
Like high quality or nothing.
If that's not your brand, and if it is your brand, it's figuring out like where the niche is. Maybe it's not cinematic high quality. Yeah. Maybe it's a high quality with more of a teaching and it's more text on videos. Like there's a million different directions to go, and your brand has to be you.
Yeah.
Just from the inside out has to be what you love, what you feel, and what you can do consistently. Because with high quality, people ask us all the time too, and I'm like, it's hard to just say we use this camera. Like Victoria has a whole videographer that's on demand with lighting, right? Like, we use a camera, but what about the lighting that we use? That's 80% of our videos is because I have an amazing light that does most of the work. I can film our videos with an iPhone and it would look phenomenal. I think those things play a huge factor as well.
And it took a long time for us to even figure out the best look, if that makes sense. So when we were initially filming, I look back on the clips and I'm like, wow, this looks like basic stock footage, really amazing, really cool. But ever since we got in our groove and found a just really special type of, video, and it's worked really well for us. Yeah. It feels like a brand versus just, a random stock video.
And it feels like what people get when they come into the treatment room, which I think is the most important, because also I can make the most, like I can get hired out for an esthetician. I can make her the most cinematic video of all time. But when somebody walks in the door and they go like, what is this place? Right. Like, I mean, if like for waxing, I don't know if that's like the vibe. If you're trying to get people in and out and you offer cheap prices, you don't need a cinematic masterpiece to show that.
Yeah.
And so every industry, every specific facial, whatever you're doing needs to have a different feel. And so when we got to where we are now, it was that perfect mixture of, we wanted to feel premium. Right.
Yeah,
and we wanted to feel on brand. When somebody watches a video, they walk in the door, they don't feel catfished.
Yeah.
By like
that was always my worst fear when we first started doing that, because my first location was in a smaller suite and it just wasn't up to par to my standards, to be honest. It was a great first studio, and I think that's also a great point, is that everybody starts somewhere. Not that I'm in this huge grand location, but I'm in a great location. I'm very grateful, but I did start, and that's something, started at a smaller place, and I did feel self-conscious. So if you feel that way, that your studio isn't good enough, that is just, what is the word? Imposter syndrome, that you think you're not good enough, but you are. So
and I remember you really struggle with that, especially we've talked about this before. When I helped Victoria set her prices, I was like, this is what we're doing, and Victoria's like, I just started, and I already knew what she offered, and I knew how she was going to treat her clients. So I was like, you have to charge this.
I just felt like the location didn't match up to who I am as an esthetician.
And then the prices as well.
But I got over that quickly.
And we moved and we settled and we found this quality of video that fit everything, but it just took time. I mean, that took a whole first year in business, and this second year is when we've really hit our stride. We moved locations and the quality of video got better, and the consistency on Instagram got better. Our intentionality got better, because we've hit spots too where we've went through like months of just like throwing stuff on Instagram just to be posting.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. And then we're like, what's wrong with Instagram? Instagram's broken.
I hear that a
work.
lot. I hear it of what my posts aren't doing well. I post every single day. And I think that's why we wanted to cover this topic of what consistency and intentionality looks like, because
and they have to go together.
Because that's the most basic question that I get all the time is, how do you guys grow your Instagram? If I say be consistent and be intentional, people are like, I am. And that's why we wanted to touch base on this topic.
Yeah. And I hope that those both make sense, that both of them have to come together. And I think that you got to take it serious. You can't just say, oh, I'm consistent.
It really
I throw
is
something
like
up every
a
single
second
day.
job. So treat it like this is your
business.
Job, though.
Yeah, it is. Like the Instagram,
it's a part of your job. And honestly, if you have a solid clientele and you don't feel that pressure to grow on social media, or you have no desire, that's okay. Don't put stress on yourself. This is for business owners that really want to focus on growing their Instagram. And that's why we are working on a course right now to just help other business owners, especially estheticians. I think that's really everything that we wanted to touch base on today. Do you have anything else that you want to add?
No, I think that's it. We can wrap it up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you aren't already, and we'll see you next time.